I want to get you thinking first of all about this young man here, Dave. So Dave, poor old Dave, all of his friends have got an iPhone. He hasn't even got any phone, but he wants this posh little number. Thin, 5G ready, £1,000 though. And he's only got £20 to his name. He's got a low-paid job that requires him to work really hard, but he still struggles for money. So there's a bit of a gap between what Dave has and what he wants. What should he do? Press pause, have a little think about what you think would be the right thing for Dave to do here. Lesson title for today, this young man here, or rather older man here, Robert Merton. And the title for the lesson, what is Merton's view towards crime? So Merton talks about his theory of crime as being strain theory. And that's what we're going to investigate today. What do we mean by strain theory? So title, what is Merton's view towards crime? So let's give you a little bit of knowledge first of all. You don't need to write anything yet. I'll tell you what you need to write down. Robert Merton was an American sociologist who studied crime rates in the 1940s America. He argued that the cultural norm in society was to achieve the American dream and opportunities for success. So you might have heard about the American dream in some bits you might have studied, for example, in English, or if you've done some bits in history about America, you might have looked at this idea of this Americanist dream, which is about material possessions. So people have a good education, they get a good job, they get good pay, and then they can afford the semi-detached or detached house, the car, the holidays, the phones, the good trainers, the handbags, all these things that make people feel as if they've done well in life, they've succeeded. And what he realised was that this couldn't be the case for everybody. Not everyone can afford to achieve the American dream. So just the bit you need to write down in your books is this little diagram over here where we've got education and a job and money put together lead to the American dream or success. So that's the bit you need to jot down together now. A little bit of knowledge then for strain theory. So he put forward this idea of strain theory. So what he was saying was that there was a strain between what people wanted and what they had. And the people that didn't have the opportunity to get to what it was that they wanted, because perhaps they hadn't got the education, they hadn't got the decent job, they were stuck in a low paid job or indeed no job at all. And that created a strain or a tension for him. For these people. So what he said was that because of this tension, people behaved in a certain way. They have to adapt to the fact they can't get the American dream in the normal way. And so they have to adapt. They have to change how they behave. And he called these adaptations strain theory. So we're going to look at what they are. So let's think again about Dave on the next slide. So these are the 5 things that he thinks are the ways in which Dave could act. So first of all, Dave could conform. So just follows the norms of society, keeps working hard, he follows the rules, and eventually he might save up enough money. Or he can innovate, and this is the first time that we see crime coming in. So he wants the phone, but he's going to break the rules to get there. So he might commit a crime, he might steal a phone, for example. Then we've got ritualism. So ritualism, there's no crime involved here. He just simply settles for a cheaper phone if that's all he can afford. He doesn't break the rules, but he still wants a phone. But he accepts it's not the phone that he absolutely wants. He changes his dreams and his goals a little bit to fit in with what he can manage. Retreatism. Don't even bother working hard to get the phone. It's going to be a struggle. You can't afford it anyway. Forget it. Don't worry about thinking about phones. And then we've got rebellion. So Dave can't afford the phone. Instead of trying to fit in with his friends by getting one, he destroys all their phones. So smashes up all their phones, then nobody's got a phone and he doesn't need to worry about wanting what everybody else has got because no one's got one. So they are the 5 strain theory ways in which people might react. You don't need to jot anything down on this slide. It's on the next slide that you need to get this information, but you do absolutely need to learn these key words that are on the next slide. Conformity, innovation, ritualism, retreatism, and rebellion. So this diagram you're just about to see is very, very important. What you need to do is you need to have a look at this diagram. And what you can see is that some of the reactions that people have accept the norms and the values of society, as you can see along the top of the diagram. Some of them reject them. And some of them accept and some of them reject the goals of society, this American dream, this success of material possessions. And then down in the corner in the yellow is the reaction that actually wants to throw it all up in the air and start again. No norms the same, no goals the same, change everything. So let's just have a little look at these then. So what we've got first of all is conformity. So if you're conforming, what you're doing is you're accepting the norms and values and you're accepting the goal. You might not get there, but you're going to carry on working hard to try to get there. If you're going to innovate, if you're going to display innovation, you accept the goal, you want to get to the success, but you are going to break the rules, possibly turn to crime to get them. Because what you're doing is you're rejecting the norms and the values. Then we've got ritualism. You reject the goal, so you change your goal slightly, but you still follow the norms. So you still do the right thing. There's no crime. You still do the right thing, but you perhaps might accept a smaller goal, a slightly different goal to the sort of the main goal that society might have. Or you might reject everything. So these people reject all the norms. They behave in criminal ways, for example, and they reject the goals. So they kind of retreat from society. So you might see things here like addiction, for example, or you might see things like homelessness here, for example. And then rebellion is the big one. People reject the norms. They try to change everything about society. So this is your crimes that basically go against everything in society that we hold dear and important and valuable to us. So things like terrorism comes in here. Okay. So what I need you to do is I need you to just pause here and draw that table out. It will take you a good 5 minutes or so. Draw it out as it is there so that it will help you understand what those 5 reactions mean. Press pause and do that. And then put in your glossary structural theory. Now, structural theory seems to be one sort of thing that people see and think, oh my God, that looks really complicated. It isn't actually. It's saying that people do crime based on their position in society. In other words, their position in the structure of things. And that is why people turn to crime. So that needs to go into your glossary. Okay, so in the Google Classroom, there are 6 scenarios for you to have a read of. And you're going to read them and you're going to decide whether you think that the person is showing conformity or ritualism or rebellion, whichever one of the 5 strain theory reactions you think are being seen. So it's in the Google Classroom. Along the top of the Google Classroom sheet is all the different types of reactions, just to help you remember them. So what I want you to do is read through the sheet and then fill in whether you think it's rebellion or retreatism, ritualism, whichever one you think it is. Okay, you should be able to work them out from the clues that you get in the scenario. So press pause and take you probably 5 to 10 minutes on this activity. And there they are again, just in case you need to remind yourself of them. And then finally, we need to challenge Merton. We know that when we do written work in sociology, it's really important that we don't just accept what people say. We don't just accept people's theories. We actually challenge them. We criticise them. We look at how they hold up against other theories, against other people's views, other perspectives. So we've got 3 really important ways in which we need to challenge Merton here. So firstly, some people say he's too deterministic. In other words, what he's saying is that if you're poor, you're going to turn to crime. Or that most people who are poor are going to react by turning to crime. But actually they don't. Most people don't turn to crime. Also, he's ignorant, so he ignores certain things. So, in fact, there's loads of people that do crime that are middle class, that have all these nice things. They still do crime. You still get middle class people who've got nice lives, can afford things, good jobs, good education, still doing crime. And his theory doesn't explain those sorts of crimes. And then finally, he's quite vague. So he talks about really only economic crimes, crimes that are leading to people gaining money or people gaining property, people that are getting something. And that doesn't really think about crimes that are violent, for example, why people do stabbings, for example, or some of the murders that happen, and also some of the crimes like vandalism or graffiti and those sorts of things that are just about expressing yourself perhaps, but are not actually about gaining money or gaining property. His strain theory doesn't consider those, because by doing vandalism or doing graffiti, you're not changing your place in being able to get those American dream things. It doesn't make any difference, therefore it doesn't explain why you've turned to that crime. So that completes today's lesson on strain theory. In future lessons, what we're going to be doing is looking at the different types of other theories. So next lesson we'll look at subcultural theory. And it's, as I say, it's so important to evaluate them against each other. That's your real skill coming into sociology there. So well done, thank you for listening, and see you next time.